So many people sit down at the piano and they wonder, what exactly am I supposed to practice? How am I supposed to do it or structure my time? That is exactly what I'm here for. My name's Rebecca, and I love finding beginners find a clear path on how to make beautiful music every time you sit down at the piano. By the end of today's lesson, you will be playing a beautiful chord progression in the key of G major. And make sure that you do stay to the end, because using this practice routine, you'll be able to have focused time so that at the end, you will be playing gorgeous music. So the very first thing that I do when I sit down at the piano is I'm going to set an intention for my practice time. Is this going to be a time where I'm simply making beautiful music? Am I going to be exploring different keys? What key am I going to be playing in? Once I have my intention set, then I'm going to choose my key. So for today, we're going to choose the key of G major. And G major is a really great one because it is all white keys except for one, and that is this F sharp right here. So instead of playing an F, we're going to play an F sharp. Now let's go over what the G major scale is, because the very first thing after setting our intention is the fact that we are going to play a scale. The scale is very, very important because it is teaching your hands and your ears what you're going to be hearing and playing in the time. So I want you to look at between G and G, and we have our F sharp right here. So when we get to this note, we're going to skip the F and play the F sharp. So let's start with one finger just so we understand what the G major scale is. But we're going to go beyond one finger today, and we're going to actually do the proper scale fingering, because this is going to help your hands immensely in moving. So for this one, we need to realize that we only have 5 fingers, right? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. That's how we number them in our right hand and in our left hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So let's begin with our right hand, and we're going to lay our fingers on G, A, B, C, and D. So we're going to play 1, 2, 3. Instead of playing the C with our forefinger, you're going to cross your thumb underneath so that your thumb, or your number 1 finger, is going to play the C. And then you're going to lay the rest of your fingers up the scale, remembering that our number 4 is going to be played by the F sharp. And then to come back down, it's exactly the same, but we're going to flip it. So now we come back down, starting on our 5 finger. And then we're going to cross over with our 3 finger laid on the B, reposition our fingers. So now I want you to try that a few times until it becomes nice and fluid, and you're not struggling to remember which fingers and which notes that you're playing. So I would practice that so that you have 3 times in a row of playing perfect scales, and it does not have to go fast. It can go very slowly, but as long as you're playing the right scale numbers with the right fingers, it'll be great. Now let's go to our left hand. So we start on our 5 finger on the G, go all the way up to 1, and then when we have run out of fingers, you're going to cross over with 3, and that is our first scale in 1 octave, and then we go back down the same way, curl under. After you have done that 3 times, we're going to go on to our next step of the practice routine, which is to figure out our chords. Now, here is our chord progression that we're choosing today. We're going to go from our 1 chord to 4 to 2 to 5 to 1. And all that means is you are building a chord on the number of the scale that I just said. So, for example, let's start with our number 1 chord, which is a G major. But how do we figure that out? Our first note that we ever played in our scale is a G. So I want you to now go up 3 notes. 1, 2, 3. That leads us to a B. And then from the G, we're going to go up 5 notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that leads to a D. So if you put all those together, G, B, and D, that is our number 1 chord. And it's called number 1 because the first note in that chord is the G, and that's the first note of the scale. So our next chord is our 4 chord. So in the G scale, let's go up 4 notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, and that leads us to a C. So we build a chord on top of that, and we have a C major. And then we have a 2 chord. So from G again, our second note of the scale was an A, and we built a chord on top of that one. That's an A minor. We have 2 more chords. Now from G, we're going to the 5th note of the scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We build a chord on top of this one. Now remember, this has an F in the middle, which means in the key of G, it's not an F, it's an F sharp. So that is a D major. That's our number 5. And then we're going to go back to 1. So in my left hand, I'm going to start. These are called root position chords. When they're stacked on top of one another like this, we're just doing root position chords to begin, and we're going to practice all of our different chords. So let's do 1 to 4 to 2 to 5 and then to 1. After I have played my left hand with my root position chords, I'm now going to do the same thing with my right hand. So let's do that starting with our 1 chord. To 4, to 2, to 5, and to 1. And then if you're really brave, you can put both hands together and play these chords together. So let's try that. Let's try our G major to our C major to A minor to D major and then to G. And since we're feeling brave today, we're going to also arpeggiate these chords. Arpeggios just mean playing broken chords. So instead of playing them all together like this, you play them from the bottom to the top or from the top to the bottom. So this may feel like a lot, right? I just wanted to take a minute and encourage you that you are right where you're supposed to be. So we have scales and we have inversions and we have playing with hands together, and all of those things are going to come together, I promise. So stick with me and I'll show you exactly how this becomes beautiful music. So this practice routine is something that can be a warm-up and something that you actually play for fun. That is what we're going to do next. Now, if you are enjoying playing in the key of G major and you want to check out another chord progression, check this one out. It's a really beautiful one that you will love now that you understand the key of G. Now we understand what the chords are, where they came from, and they just came from the different notes of the scale. So now let's talk a little bit about a G major melody. And we're going to start our improvisation already by creating a melody in G major. I always like to do this even if I'm sitting down with sheet music in front of me that is in the key of G. I will then improvise in the key of G first. Again, you're teaching your hands about this key. You're teaching your hands then in the key of G, we have a note that we don't ever play, which is this F. And so when your hands are learning this, it's even going to help make reading sheet music that much easier. So let's create a melody in the key of G. And I'm going to do this with my right hand because when we put both hands together, we're going to be doing chords over here and we're going to be doing some kind of a melody over here in the right hand. So let's practice some melodies and just see if we can come up with something that we like. Now, just one word about melodies. You don't want melodies to be so crazy that they're popping around from octave to octave, something like this. That's not a song that we would sing because it would be too difficult for our voices to be going and popping around like that. So I want you to think of actually singing a song in the key of G. And if you do that, what would that sound like? All of your music would be kind of within an octave or two, really, when you're singing it. So here are the rules for making a good melody. Number 1, we're going to start and end on a G. And it doesn't have to be any particular G. It can be this lower one, or this one. And you can start on one G and you can end on another G if you wanted to. But that will sound like our melody has come home. The second thing is that you want all of your notes to be kind of within a hand's breadth of one another. And then, of course, we don't want to play an F because that won't sound good since that is our forbidden note in G. If you follow those rules, that's really it. That's all you're going to need to make a great melody. So let's give this a try. That was really pretty. Let's try something with a little bit of a different flair to it. I'm going to make it a little faster and maybe go up into this octave a little bit. Let's see what we can come up with here. That was really cool too. So really experiment and see, what kind of a mood am I in today? Do I want to play something fast? Do I want to play something slow? Do I want something meditative, something that's going to help my heart heal? That's a great thing about music and improvisation. So really kind of decide what your intention is for your melody as well, and practice a few melodies just by having a melody and chords over here. But instead of playing just the chords, I'm going to actually play an octave over here. So instead of a G major chord like this, I'm going to just play the G here. It's representing the G chord. And then for the C, the A minor, things like that. It will make it a little bit easier to only have to worry about one note in your left hand. So now let's try to make a melody, and I'm not going to go very fast, but I'm going to use my sustain pedal. And let's create something right now with this chord progression. Already, that sounded absolutely beautiful. And we were only doing a melody in the right hand and chords in the left hand. So that is a way that you can immediately get melody and chords together. Once you become comfortable, maybe you want to do that a few times. That could be the end of your session that day. But if you want to expand it a little more, that's what we're going to do now. I'm going to talk about some inversions of our chords in our right hand. So now in your left hand, I'm going to stick, just for ease today, I'm going to stick with the octaves in my left hand. And in my right hand, I'm going to play the chords. However, here's the thing. I don't have to always play the chords like this in stacked position or root position. If you play the G chord, we have G, B, and D. If we change the order of that, we can still have a G chord even if we play the D on the bottom. So let's listen to how that sounds. Hear how that sounds different? So it's still a G, B, and D, but it's different. What about if we put the B here, put that on the bottom? So what these are, those are called inversions. So if we start here on our root position and we do the same thing where we take the G off the bottom and place it at the top, that's our first inversion. And then if we take the B off the bottom and put that at the top, that's the second inversion. So a way to practice this is just to go throughout the different inversions in your right hand, up and down, and just feel what those different chords feel like. And we can do that for all of them. So then we have our C, our first inversion of our C with the C on top, and then our second inversion with our E on top, and then I'll end up on the root. And so all of those are the C inversions. And we can do the same thing with our A minor. We can do the A minor in root position, and then our first inversion with the A on top, second inversion with C on top, and then back to our root and come back down. And then for D, this one feels a little bit different just because it has an F sharp in it, but we're not afraid of that anymore. So this is our root position. First inversion with D on top, second inversion with F sharp on top, and then our root. And coming back down. And then we're back to our G. So I also like to spend time in inversions, even if I just go through it one time, in my right hand especially, because that is where I'm going to be using inversions. However, it is also a great opportunity to try them in our left hand as well, just because it does feel a little bit different. And if you want to employ having inversions in your left hand, then I absolutely recommend doing that as well. And here's how this fits together with our chord progression now. So now you get to basically make choices as you're going between which inversion you're going to do in your right hand and which pattern you're going to do for your left hand. So for today, we're going to stick with just the octave in our left hand every single time for all of the different chords. And then in our right hand, I want you to practice different inversions. So I will just choose, let's do 3 different inversions for all of our chords right now, just to get used to playing with them hands together. So after you've practiced both hands together in a very, very simple way, we can now start expanding them to any different pattern that you want to. If you want a video that shows different left hand patterns, I'm going to link this one in the description box below. It'll show you some different left hand patterns that you can experiment with. But today I'm just going to give you the octaves and then one more that is my favorite. So the other pattern that I'm going to show today is only using one more note. So instead of just doing an octave, we're going to also put the fifth of the chord down. So if you remember in the beginning, we did the third and then the fifth. So that's how we got the G, B, and D. So this D is our fifth. All of the different chords have a fifth that we can add. So instead of playing it all together like this, we're going to now arpeggiate it from the bottom to the top and then back down. So here is our timing. 1 and 2 and 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3, 4. And each one of them is going to be like that. Now I'm going to be just playing different inversions in my right hand instead of our melody yet, but we're going to add our melody in just a minute. So let's do 2 different inversions on half beats. So we're going to do one inversion here to start on G. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we'll go to 2 inversions of C. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's try this with this left hand pattern. Today you get to choose between 2 different left-hand patterns, either the octave or the octave with the fifth and doing arpeggios. And you don't have to do it every single time. Maybe for a couple measures you want to do octaves, and then in a couple measures you want to do the arpeggios. You get to decide which one is which. So now all we have to do is choose different patterns and put it all together. This is the moment that you've been waiting for, that we're now going to put the entire thing together. So reminder, let's look at what our right hand is doing again, just so you don't get overwhelmed when you hear this section. You get to choose different chords or inversions over here like we just talked about. You can also do any kind of a melody in here from the G scale, and then you can do 2 or more notes together. That's all the right hand is doing. So a lot of times in my videos, I will get comments that this part I don't explain as much, but that's because we're putting it all together. And I'm choosing on the fly what I'm doing. So I am only choosing from those 3 choices. And then in my left hand, I'm either going to choose the octave or the arpeggio. So now let's create our song in the key of G major. Let's review our practice routine. Number 1, you set your practice intention and you choose your key for the day. Number 2, you're going to play your scale. Number 3, you'll play chords and choose a chord progression for your particular key that you played your scale in. Number 4, you're going to improvise in that key, both hands alone and hands together. And then number 5, you put everything together to create beautiful music. What I love about practice routines like this is that it can translate into any key that you are planning on playing in. So say you're sitting down and you're playing in the key of E major, you can take this practice routine and you can go from beginning to end and you can play a chord progression in E major. In fact, here's a really good one if you want to try that out. Sometimes we feel alone when we're practicing and we feel like we are the only ones who are struggling with certain things. But here on this channel, we have a community of people who are all in the same place. And that's why I love this community at RLP Studios so much. If you know of anybody else who's struggling with the basics of playing the piano and making beautiful music every time you sit down to practice, make sure to share this video with them because I'm sure that they would love to be a part of it as well. I hope that you keep on practicing. If there's anything about practice routines that you are really struggling with, let me know. Everybody's an individual and there's always issues that come up. I would love to help you work through that.
Until then, keep working hard, and I'll see you in the next video.